Hey, welcome back to the Magic Vlog.
Hello, everyone.
Man, it's been a wild ride. I mean, last week we had that awesome battle between us.
Yeah, still want that rematch.
Yeah, the thing is, I never beat this guy. Ever. I mean, the closest I've ever gotten was like, what, second place at a tournament?
Yeah, we
Split that round, actually, in your favor.
Yeah.
Because it was late at night and we were tired.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, we got our top 10 favorite cards of the modern era here. Not modern, but the last few sets that we've been playing in the last 2 or 3 years. So
starting back from 2014, whenever Ravnica and M14 was fixing to go out.
yeah, right when you started.
Yep. And one of my cards isn't exactly from that era, but it came out. It was reprinted during that era for one of the dual decks.
Yeah.
So technically it counts.
Yeah, kind of cheated it in there, but it's a great card. So.
But we're also going to be telling our most hated card ever that we've ever had in this era.
Yeah, we agreed on this one. So.
And we've also got an honorable mention each. And so this list will actually tell them some good cards that we like that they might actually want to go out and try and get for their own decks.
Yeah, our top 10 list is filled with. I went more like the cards I enjoyed playing. They're not necessarily the best cards, but they're powerful in their own right, and if you build around them.
That's exactly what I did, to be honest. But I think we've bored them long enough. Shall we?
Let's get to it.
For our honorable mentions, I myself have actually chosen the Progenitor Mimic from the, what was it, the Return to Ravnica, or was it?
It's Dragon's Mace, I think.
Yeah, 6-drop blue.
Green, 4 colorless.
Yeah, it starts off as a 0/0, but it comes into play as a copy of any creature that's on the battlefield, even your opponent's, and it can create extra copies each upkeep. Problem is, the reason why I put it in the honorable mentions is because it's so easy to take down.
Yeah, if they can take care of one creature, they can take care of your 6 mana investment, and if you don't get to untap with it, you kind of overpaid for it, but.
And now,
my honorable mention, it's a land called Maze's End, of course from Dragon's Maze.
yep.
It was a complete build-around card to where you had to get all 10 gates in order to win the game. But some people like to bring in like Artifact Destruction or Pithing Needle or Maze's End. And the deck was kind of a headache to play because you couldn't make any mistakes in that deck.
Yeah. It's mostly like for a blue deck or something like that, so that way you could like counter the spells and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was a 5-color deck that almost all your lands came to play tap, so it was kind of slow, so you lost to almost all the mono red decks that were pretty popular at the time.
Yeah.
And versus the control decks, you just couldn't make any mistakes.
Oop. Well, that's the perfect timing because now we're going to get into our top 10.
Yep, the actual top 10 of our favorite cards since 2014 in Ravnica Block.
Actually, that couldn't have gone any better than that. Don't you think?
Maybe if we put the Bowser theme in there or something.
Nah, the Bowser theme would be more for our most hated card.
Yeah, that worked pretty good.
So, for my number 10 spot, I decided something from Origins. A really good 3-drop green card called Mana Gorger Hydra. That I loved playing that, especially back at the pre-release for Origins. Oh man, first time I ever drew that card, I knew I had to make a red-green deck because red-green seems to be more faster with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you had Titan Strength to buff it up, and since you get the 1/1 counter with your Titan Strength, you had a 1 mana give a creature 4/2 plus a scry, so it didn't get much better than that.
Yeah, plus burn spells were kind of useless against it if you had it up high enough.
Yeah, their burn spell automatically does 1 less damage because it's bigger by the time it resolves.
Yep. Now, for you?
Number 10 for me is a card that just came out in Kaladesh, Panharmonicon. Extremely fun card.
Oh, yeah. I played that back during the, the draft that we did?
Yeah. Almost everything in Kaladesh has a come into play effect or is an artifact that triggers when something comes into play, so it's a really good way to get a lot of value out of your come into play effects and just random stuff that appears to be everywhere.
The problem with it is like it's a 4-drop?
Yeah, 4-mana artifact, so it gets hit by Spell Queller. Fragmentize gets it for 1 mana, so
Yeah, that's kind of yeah.
very small drawback for how powerful and fun it is, though. And it should really be a legendary artifact for how powerful it is.
Yeah, but but since it's not, people can play multiple versions of it.
Yeah, then you get really crazy.
For my number 9,
Number 9.
I actually chose something from actually my EDH deck that I have. It's a good card. Varela the Hullclade. I chose it as my commander for that deck. I mean, he's really good for 3-drop blue green, and basically
Blue green tap.
and you double the amount of 1/1 counters on your
Entire field, I think.
no, just
Or is
on
it
one
just
creature.
one creature?
Just one creature. Yeah, and for a cheap cost, it's really good for a commander because if it's killed, I mean, you can just
Yeah, play it a couple turns later.
yeah. I mean, it sets up for one of my favorite combos of that deck too.
Yeah, and blue green. There's so many ways to get 1/1 counters on your stuff, and there's so many good ways to use it. Like any of the Hydras, Primordial Hydra, Colonian Hydra, or one of my favorites, Sage of the Hours.
Yeah, imagine with hardened scales though.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, double +1. And now?
Number 9 for me, a 5-color creature that was pretty difficult to cast, and somebody actually dared me to build a deck around this, and I did. Chromanticore.
Oh, God.
Cost 1 of each color normally, and it was a 4/4 flying vigilance, first strike, lifelink. Vigilance, did I mention that one?
Yeah.
Had 4 or 5 abilities, can't remember all of them. I think the last one was trample.
Yeah, but I ended up almost always taking that thing down.
Yeah, it even has more of a bonus from Bestow. If you put 7 mana into it, 2 colorless plus 1 of each other color, you get to just give any creature 4/4, first strike, flying, vigilance, trample, lifelink, etc.
Every time I face that thing, I always utter-ended that thing.
Yeah, I was able to. The deck was built around just the fast mana and a card called Market Festival, which allows your land to tap for 2 more of any combination of
Oh
colors.
yeah, I used to use that in my old green-white life gain deck with with my what was it that Sunbond or something like
Sunbond.
that, and the Ancient Silverback.
Oh yeah, that's a nasty card.
Yeah, that combo was always nasty.
And you had two creatures that were both 2-drops in blue and green. You had Kiora's Follower and then the Satyr that untaps target land. And since you got that one land that produces 3 mana, you can untap it, make 6 mana, and then you're only 1 mana away from bestowing it on one of your mana dorks.
Yeah, but the only thing that would have made it better, I think, would have been Prophet of Crypix. A very profitable.
I think I had one of those in the main deck, maybe one this side, something like that. But yeah, extremely fun card. Sometimes the deck's just got nothing but mana and like no way to spend it, but that's the way most Ram decks go.
But as we said before, the main problem is getting the 5 colors out.
Yeah, it was pretty difficult to cast it reliably, but somehow that deck did it pretty reliably.
And it was never immune to creature kill.
Yeah, a lot of creature kill at that time.
For
Number 8.
Yep, for my number 8, I chose a card from my original black and blue deck that I built back whenever I very first started. My Psychic Spiral.
Ooh.
Nice little 5-drop instant card that set up for one of my better combos. With another card from my list, actually. I mean, 5 mana, 1 blue and 4 colorless, instant card.
It's a speed, no less, yeah.
Returns every card in your graveyard back to your deck. Reshuffle, and then target player loses the same amount of cards that you shuffled into your deck out off the top of their deck.
Yep. You get anti-mill and they get milled. I actually had that card in the sideboard of my Maze's End. Because sometimes people's strategy for Maze's End was to mill both of your gates, and then it was impossible to win that way, so I had a way to get it back.
Too bad you never saw my deck.
Yeah, that was like right before we started playing tournaments together.
Yeah, but then again, most of the cards in my deck actually went out.
Yeah, Maze's End kind of died without Maze's End, obviously.
Yeah, plus most of my cards went out anyway with M14 and
Yeah.
Ravnica going out. And for you,
Number 8 for me is Courser of Crufex, another Theros card.
Oh,
2 green and a colorless. It's a 2/4 enchantment creature. Sometimes the enchantment part mattered more for your opponent than you. But reveal the top card of your library, and you may play lands off the top of your library as long as it was the one land drop on the turn. And every time a land enters the battlefield under your control, it can gain a life.
funny thing is, I actually had a foil version of that, and I never knew it until much, much later in my life. You remember that?
Yeah.
But
Very good card. Just green card advantage, which one of our favorite blue mages over there at our old card shop just hated green having all the good card draw.
Yeah, he actually didn't he say that green is herpes?
I don't know. He just didn't like green.
But the problem with the Courser of Crufix is what it was like 4 or 5 mana.
No, it was only 3 mana.
3 mana.
It was
double
one of the
green.
best cards for Abzan.
It was double green if I remember.
Yeah, double green.
That was the main problem with it right there, getting the double green out that you needed.
Not really with the Elvish Mystic and
yeah, the Elvish Mystic
the
Elvish Mystic actually went well with my Managorger Hydra.
Oh yeah, any of those Courser or Managorger on turn 2 was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. Number 7. I think. Mine was Jace Memory Adept. This is actually the other card to the Psychic Spiral that I mentioned. Oh boy, that was actually my very first Planeswalker too.
I had the original Jace Bellerin as my first Planeswalker ever opened, so.
Well, I didn't actually buy Memory Adept in a pack. I bought it as a single.
Oh, okay.
But
I bought a lot of Planeswalkers and singles.
Jace Memory Adept was actually pretty good. I mean, what was it? 5 drop?
Yep, 5 drop came in with, I think, 4 or 5 loyalty. 4.
Yeah. Plus, it had a pretty good +1. It had no neg abilities at all. I mean, it had a +1. Yeah, except for that. Yeah. The +1 ability. What was it? Draw 1 and your opponent mills 1.
I think so. Yeah.
Neg. And the 0 ability, which most people like playing more often, I actually prefer to play the +1 ability more often. But the neg 0, the 0 ability, that would force the opponent to mill 5 cards from their deck.
That was 10.
It doesn't really matter. All that matters is that it milled.
It milled really hard.
But then if you get the neg 8, it allows one or both players to draw 20 cards from their deck. Neg 8 on that, whew, forget it, buddy.
And if you've already hit them with a couple of zeros, then they're already down 10 or 20 cards, depending on how much it milled for. I think it's 10.
And then having to discard from your own hand actually sets up for the Psychic Spiral.
Yep, nice little combo there between your 7 and 8 picks.
Yeah, because if you get the 7 cards in your hand that you need, then you have to discard all those other cards that you
do extra,
or cards that you don't really need.
Yeah, extra lands.
Just discard all of them. Then your opponent's turn, Psychic Spiral them before they draw. Boom. People actually hated that combo. Everyone said I was a monster for it.
People tend to not like mill, but when it works, it works.
And for you?
Number 7, Seasons Past, another semi-recent card. Came out of Shadows of Innistrad. Another green source of card advantage. Kind of sensing a theme here. I love green and I love card advantage. So.
Yeah, you actually got jealous of me whenever I pulled that back at the draft.
Draft, not so much a powerful card, but when you build around it, you get a tutor. You get, you can have your land drop be a 0 through usually 6 or 7. You get your mana cost all spread out, and you can just get a fistful of cards back for 6 mana. It goes to the bottom of your deck, and one of the cards you get back is the tutor that you searched out the Seasons Past to begin with, and then you get this huge card advantage engine that's impossible to stop unless they exile the Seasons Past or both tutors or.
Yeah. Actually,
super slow but super powerful.
Yeah, didn't you have a blue-green tutor deck, like Sphinx's Tutelage or something like that?
That was... I'm not sure. I think that was, like, out of the sideboard, out of my Demonic Pact deck, because it had a bunch of card drawing.
Well, I guess that's that for that.
Yep.
Number 6, I believe we're at now?
Yep.
Mine is Liliana Vest, the actual Planeswalker Liliana Vest, just flat out Liliana Vest. That card set up really well.
Yeah, this would be in my top 10 too, but we decided to spread the love between 20 different cards.
Yeah, Liliana Vest was really good. I mean, +1 up on her, and your one player discards a card from their hand. I mean, you could do it to yourself, or you could do it to your opponent.
Yeah, my Abzan deck loved to bring in a second copy of that versus the control mages that were pretty popular when Dissipate and Dissolve were the counter spells of choice. A lot of blue mages during that time. Dig Through Time.
Oh, and
They always had cards in their hand. They're trying to save those counter spells for your spell, but Liliana just make them discard it, and then they had no cards, so you're free to just play whatever without fear of getting counterspelled.
then there's also Liliana's Neg 2 ability, which I very rarely ran, to be honest, because I really didn't need it all that often.
For me, I was planning on getting my other walkers, like those were my finishers, were the other walkers, so I usually -2'd and search for my other walkers to finish out the game pretty quickly.
Yeah, the thing is, the Neg 2 ability lets you search out any card you want and put it on top of your deck after shuffling.
Yep, and she starts off with 5 loyalty, so you can do that 2 times, and then she's still there.
Yeah, and then there's another thing. Her Neg 8 ability. Oh man, I played the crap out of this. I mean, I would every time I played Liliana, I'd always get off her ultimate.
Yeah, I've ultimated her like 2 or 3 times. Always won the game though, because if they're discarding their entire hand, you're probably getting a creature or 2 out of the deal.
But it's really good to use at the end of main phase 2, or the second main phase. Yeah. Oh boy.
Because of combat, you want to trade off some creatures, and sometimes they just can't take that much damage, so they have to trade. But
and this actually comboed with against another Abzan deck that I used to run, and against another Abzan deck that someone else ran once before in a tournament.
That'd be me.
And well, actually no, it was against another person.
Oh, another one.
Yeah,
Abzan was really popular.
Yeah, and it actually comboed with a card that is in his top 10, but we'll get to that later.
Yep. So my number 6, this was a 4-color deck, but it was mostly Abzan at the time when Abzan was really good. Soul of Theros.
Oh, jeez Louise, I hated that card.
For people familiar with Sidisi whip decks, Sidisi was a card that mills 3 every time it came into play or attacked, and you would want to hit just creatures that you can bring back with the Whip of Erebos. Well, I saw a version of this deck that swapped out the Whip of Ereboses for Soul of Theros. Because Soul of Theros gives everything for 6 mana, it gives everything +2/+2, first strike, and lifelink. So it just turned all your mana dorks into just ridiculous 3/3 or sometimes 5/5s, and just get in there for like a weird white overrun type of effect. And you could use that effect out of the graveyard. So if you milled it with Sidisi, you just threaten to kill him with a bunch of Sidisi and zombie tokens that you made with Sidisi. Super fun, and I've won a lot of games where somebody gets me down to like 3 or 4 life, and then I just gain like 40 in one turn. On turn like 5 or 6, it was stupid.
I remember half the time whenever you played that against me, I'd always end up beating it.
Yeah, sometimes you just can't mill something, or somebody exiles all your stuff.
But still some bad memories because other people used to play Soul of Theros.
Yeah. It was a deck that had a bunch of mana dorks that were popular at the time. Elvish Mystic, Sylvan Caryatid, Courser Crewfix was almost in every single green deck. And another card in my top 8 was in there too, or top 10.
Well, I think we're down to number 5 now. And this one was actually a more recent one. I think it was like during the latest Zendikar block. Zada Hedron Grinder.
That's a fun card.
Oh, yeah. This one is really good. I mean, you cast a spell that targets your Zada and all of your other creatures.
Get that spell too.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really, really good. Oh, man. I mean,
there's quite a few spells that just like target creature can't block and you draw a card, but you're not planning on blocking on your turn.
Yeah.
So you just gain like 7 cards or something.
One of my favorite things to do, actually, in my old red-green werewolf deck with Zada was to use the, what was it? The
Silver Fur Partisan.
Not only that, but the
Mirror Wing.
Not only that, it was the Pyromancer's Goggles.
Oh yeah.
And using the Titan Strength, using the goggles to cast Titan Strength on Zada.
So So you would get the first
Titan
strength on all your creatures, scribe that many times, and then you would do it again with the second copy, and now all your creatures have +6/+2.
I almost went for Mirrorwing Dragon for this spot, but Mirrorwing Dragon would actually work against you since your opponent could cast their pump spells on your creature, and then all their creatures would get it.
Yeah, kind of the same card too, so.
Yeah. So you don't really want to. So for that reason, I had to drop Mirrorwing altogether because it was just way too good of a target for an opponent to use.
Yeah, if they kill the dragon, they get to kill everything that kill spell could target, so.
Or they pump their own creatures.
Yeah.
So, for you, I believe you had a really good one.
Number 5 for me. My only planeswalker on this list. I had 4 different walkers, but 2 of them are on his list, so I'm going to talk about my favorite walker. Ajani, Mentor of Heroes.
Oh, boy.
5-drop planeswalker. I think it started off with 4 or 5 loyalty.
I think it was 4.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
All of Johnny's pretty much started with 4.
Yeah. +1, you get to distribute 3 1/1 counters on up to 3 different creatures. Could be 1 creature, but there was a bunch of juicy targets for those +3 counters. A lot of creatures had trampled during that time, and sometimes you could just turn a little 2/2 into a 5/5 and just start going to town with it.
Yeah.
The other +1 is what I used mainly for the deck was control decks, like to make you discard and destroy all your planeswalkers and stuff. His +1, you would look at the top 4, and you can pick a creature, an aura card, which I didn't have any in most of my decks, but sometimes you did, or a planeswalker. I had plenty of planeswalkers in my decks. I had a deck that had 9 main board and then 3 more in the sideboard, which is one of my Abzan control decks. So.
And if I remember correctly, didn't Mentor of Heroes Ultimate have the gain 100 life?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever ultimated him except for in a casual match. My opponent actually stole it, and then he ultimated. But
oh, jeez. But could you?
I had enough power on the board. I just killed him in 2 more turns anyway.
But then try to combine that with Johnny Collar the Pride's ultimate.
Yeah, that'd be a long game.
Yeah. But I gotta say, Mentor of Heroes, my personal favorite of Johnny was actually Johnny Steadfast. That card actually comboed well with Mentor of Heroes.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with any of the Johnnies. He's just one of the favorite planeswalkers that most people that I talk to, and for good reason.
Actually, I didn't really care for Vengeant, though.
Yeah, Vengeant was a different style of play, but he's still really good in the decks you want to play him in.
Well, we've already broken the top 5, broken the top 5 barrier. I think we're now down to top 4.
Yep, top 4.
We've got another one for me on my number 4
another
slot.
Walker.
Yep, Elspeth, Sun's Champion, one of my absolute favorite planeswalkers. 6-drop, double white, who came into play with 4 1/1 counter or 4 loyalty counters. Oh boy, this card was a must-have for any white deck.
Yeah, 6 mana. A lot of people didn't think it'd see play except for maybe 1 or 2 copies in like a slow deck, but I've seen some decks where it just ran 4 of them because she was crazy good.
I mean, +1, you bring out a creature token.
3 of them.
Oh yeah.
You get 3 1/1s.
Soldiers.
And then unless they were attacking in the air, like that just stabilized right then and there.
Yeah, but her -3 ability, that was the most played right there.
Yeah, a combination of the +1 and the -3 is what makes her really good.
Yeah, the -3 ability, you destroy all creatures on the battlefield that have power 4 or greater.
Yep, so even Stormbreath Dragon with this protection from white would still get destroyed.
Oh yeah, you remember that story, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It even worked out against a lot of creatures that had protection from anything, because protection only protects from targeting.
Yeah, if you're really behind, you could just probably play it -3 and it'd be a good enough wrath effect to where you can just start +1ing and then just kill them with a crap ton of soldier tokens.
But then her ultimate actually plays well to her +1 ability.
Oh yeah, -7, all your creatures get +2/+2 and flying. And it was an emblem, so there was no way they can do anything about it at the time.
She actually ran in my Abzan deck, which he was a little scared of at first because of that.
Yep, I think I had 3 Elspeths in my Abzan, and you had 2, I think.
1.
Just 1?
Yeah. That's what I traded my Courser of Kruthix for.
Yep. And Elspeth is also probably the main target for my Liliana Vest -2. Usually I got her, and then after that, I -2 Liliana again to get Soren Solemn Visitor, the only Planeswalker not on either one of our lists, but definitely powerful in both of our Abzan decks at the time.
We're hoping that she makes a comeback whenever we return to Theros.
Yeah, Elspeth, we know she's not dead, but she'll might be a white-black walker, might be mono-white.
But we do know that Ajani's going to be making a comeback in the next set.
Yep.
He's already been previewed.
Yeah, it could be a little bit better, but who knows? It's still a slower, kind of powerful planeswalker, definitely.
Yeah. And he's still wearing Elspeth's cloak.
Yep, tribute to Elspeth, so.
I mean, those two were best friends, weren't they?
Yeah, they were both together on Theros doing
But we also
all
know
the good
that
stuff there.
But Ajani came in and helped the rest of
The Gatewatch, yeah.
Yeah, they came in and he I think it was during the showdown between Tezzeret and Pia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Ajani was saying that Tezzeret was having his people steal all those artifacts.
Yeah, the confiscation coup is actually just Tezzeret just taking all the people's good inventions and taking them for himself.
And of course, you know that wherever Tezzeret is, Nicol Bolas can't be far behind.
Yep. I'm really excited about him in the next set.
And now
but yeah,
for
Elspeth,
you,
the number 4 for him, in combination with Storm Sound Visitor, a bunch of 2/1 lifelinking soldiers. So there is no way they're attacking you except for with flyers, and that won the game for me quite often.
All right, for you, for your number 4, I believe it was a bit of a nightmare for me whenever I started playing.
Number 4 for me, a card that made those red mages cry a little bit, because Seeker of the Way would gain you a bunch of life in combination with all my planeswalkers that happen to trigger prowess.
I remember running one of those in my Abzan deck.
Man, this card was amazing for me. When Theros rotated and everyone was losing Fleece Mainline and their Abzan decks, people were like, well, maybe we'll run Air of the Wilds, maybe we run just Sylvan Caryatids for another 2-drop ramp. I decided to go with Seeker of the Way, and man, was it really, really good. It was pretty much a 3/3 lifelink anyway.
Every time he got that thing out, I could never beat him.
Yep, turn 2, you just play Seeker of the Way. If you get to untap with it, you're casting on turn 3. You got any amount of kill spells, card draw spells with Abzan Charm. You can just draw 2 cards. Heck, you could even put 2 counters on Seeker of the Way, making it a 5/5 lifelinker on turn 3, which is crazy. And then on turn 4, I had many Planeswalkers, Storm Solemn Visitor.
That thing was almost as bad as Monastery Mentor, to be honest.
Yeah, Gideon was turn 4. I still had more kill spells and draw spells at turn 4, so. Man, if Seeker of the Way lived, you just gained 9 to 12 life every single game for 2 mana. Really ridiculous. Red mages hated it.
Okay, in the immortal words of Ahmed the Dead Terrorist, okay, moving on!
Top 3.
Yeah, we were really coming down to the wire here. It got tough from here on out, didn't it? For me, for my number 3 spot, it was actually the very first god I ever saw in my entire life. In the first god I ever bought myself. And I actually used it in a demo game for my very first game that I actually won, which I couldn't believe, to be honest. Athreos, God of Passage, one of the it's got, in my opinion, the best god of the entire Theros block.
Yep, only 3 mana. There's only 2 3-mana gods, and this one was arguably better, is more powerful, but black-white wasn't the best combination at that time, I guess.
Indestructible. You couldn't beat that.
Yeah, it was kind of just harder to turn on its devotion and make him an attacker as it was Farika, which is the other 3-drop god. That saw plenty of play, but...
Yeah, but 7 devotion to black and white, I mean...
Yeah, black and white, you're more control, so you didn't have a whole lot of permanence to turn on devotion. You were just, killing everything and casting my number 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, his major power, that really killed a lot of people, to be honest.
Yeah, it was kind of darned if they do, darned if they don't.
Yeah, because every time one of your creatures dies while Athreos is out, either you get it back to your hand or your opponent pays 3 life. Yeah.
So if you have creatures that came into play and did something, they're pretty much forced to deal 3 damage to themselves, and then
I've
you're
seen
playing black, so you can just get it back from the graveyard and do it all over again, and
I've
then
ac-
they're probably just dead.
I've actually seen some people play a Mardu deck that focuses around him and Purphoros, the god of the
Oh
forge.
man, that'd be gross. Yeah, you definitely have
Yeah.
to pay the -3 then, because then you're just catching 2 when it comes back anyway.
But then again, if you don't but then again, those are mostly a distraction for Liliana Vess's ultimate.
Yep.
And this actually combos with, and those cards actually comboed with the card I mentioned earlier that is in his top 10 list right here.
Yep, my number 3, everyone's favorite Abzan creature. If you hear the word Abzan, you know.
May I take this?
Sure, go ahead.
Siege Rhino.
Yep. Abzan, you can't hear the word Abzan without thinking about Siege Rhino. It's just, what were they thinking? 4 mana, 4/5 Trampler. All right, that's pretty decent. You might play that if it was all one color or something like that. But then the ad,
Every time
it hits the battlefield.
Every time I tapped 4 mana while I was playing my Abzan deck, everyone started fearing me because they were like, no, don't do it, and I'd always pull out that Siege Rhino on them.
Yeah, 1 Siege Rhino. Okay, super powerful card, but every time you kill a Rhino, guess what your opponent has? The second Rhino. And if you kill that one, the third Rhino. And then you're just dead because it deals 3 damage to your opponent when it comes into play, and you gain 3 life. So if your opponent draws 3 Rhinos, like,
and without
they don't even have to attack anymore.
and
They're already at 11
Athreos
without doing anything.
and with Athreos out, you just couldn't get rid of the Rhino, basically.
No, with Athreos, you're just forced to pay 3 because if you bounce it to your hand, you're just going to die to burn out of a deck that doesn't have burn in it.
Although technically, wouldn't Athreos' ability kind of go with the Rhino since it was 3 anyway?
Yeah, I mean, with Athreos, you kind of want to force him to do 3 damage every time. So, yeah, there's no way they let you have Rhino
And this
back.
is actually going back to what I was mentioning before with Liliana's ability. Before, whenever I was facing that other Abzan deck, my opponent had 4 Rhinos in their graveyard, and I had, what was it? I only had like 3.
Yeah, he had like 2 or 3, I think.
3 Rhinos in my graveyard. Oh, man. I had just swung all out with all my creatures, and we just lost every one of our creatures. And he completely forgot about Liliana, and I had not used any of her abilities that turn. Second main phase, boom, 21 damage.
Yep. 7 Rhinos coming into play at the same time. You win.
Yeah, he actually rage quit, slammed his stuff, just walked out. He left his stuff. He's like, fuck, screw this, I quit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too happy about that too. Of course, I'd see it coming, but yeah, I did that to one player. He was playing one of those Abzan Mill enchantment constellation decks, and he ended up with 3 Rhinos, and I had 3 Rhinos. Us just trying to kill each other's Rhinos and get a hold of the game.
I pulled that same thing on you one time. Remember?
Yeah, I think I had 2 Rhinos and you had 4, but I was already.
I was already
like 10 or something anyway. So yeah, I was super dead.
Yeah, I already used the Elspeth's ability just to wipe out your Rhinos.
Yep, killed the Rhinos and then brought them back for his servitude.
Yeah, he was like, oh, screw you.
And nothing I could do.
Yeah, he actually said the phrase, "You're such a dick."
I think I only had like 1 black man, and I kept drawing Hero's Downfall, which could have killed your Liliana, but didn't have double black, and you just make me discard it.
Yeah.
Oh man, Siege Rhino.
Top 2. Now this card is actually one of my favorites because I pulled this at the pre-release that this came out in. The foil version 2. Oh, nice little red card. Fall of the Titans.
I remember when you pulled that too.
Yeah, I think it was a 2-headed giant that weekend.
Yeah, it was the Oath of the Gatewatch pre-release.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a 2-headed giant, and the reason it was 2-headed giant was because of the surge thing.
Yep, your opponent could play a spell, and then, hey, you guys already played a spell this turn, so you get to cast your surge spells for free. Or not free, but for super cheap.
Yeah, and Fall of Titans, that was a brutal thing to use in 2-headed giant, to be honest, because if you pay the surge cost, normally you'd have to pay double colorless to get 1 damage to each player or up to 2 players or creatures.
Yep, if you surge it, you just pay red and X, and then that's how much damage you do to 2 targets. But the thing is, 2-headed giant, you have 2 different opponents, so technically,
You're dealing double the damage.
yeah.
But
So you deal X damage to that guy, X damage to that guy, and
one of my
for 5 mana you dealt 10 damage.
a real troll thing to use with that. And he hates this.
Hammer Perfro, or not Hammer Perfro's,
Pyromancer's Goggles.
yeah, Pyromancer's Goggles.
He hated that.
Yeah,
combo.
pretty much the same thing. You're almost quadrupling your mana if you double it with the surge cost, and man, it's a crazy amount of damage, especially in single player when you only start off with 20.
Because remember whenever you had those huge creatures out, and then I used Pyromancer's Goggles with the Fall of Titans with all that mana. I hit you twice and both of your big creatures.
Yep, has a big turnaround.
That you were like, what the heck? I didn't even know you could do that combination.
Yeah, Fall of the Titans is really well with Pyromancer's Goggles, and that is actually one of the Pro Tour top 8 decks in the hands of one of our Channel Fireball friends.
Yeah. Now for your number 2.
Number 2, we have a deck that kind of was barely there. It was like some people played it, but it was more of just a Friday Night Magic thing. Sometimes you saw it in the big events, but it never top 8'd. Mardu Dragons, and my favorite, Kullagan, the Storm's Fury.
Never worked against me, though.
Yeah, he was pretty good at killing my creatures, but if he ever did untap with a dragon already out in play, mostly Stormbreath Dragon, and I had another dragon in there, I can't remember what it was.
A Tarka.
No, I think it was just Thunderbreak Reagent.
Oh, freak, I hated that thing.
I think I had 11 dragons in the main board, so pretty much you just want to have one other dragon. This Kullagan has dash, so pretty much you play it for 5 mana, and then it has haste when you dash it, and then it would go back to your hand if your opponent didn't die somehow from your big giant flying attack, and then you just get to do it again.
Problem is that deck never worked against me.
Yep. If you're good at killing some dragons, which Abzan was, then
Elspeth.
Yeah, Elspeth too, but with Kullagan having dash and a couple of your other Stormbreath also having haste, you could probably just cast one dragon and then be like, all right, I could take 4 damage, but then with Kullagan, you dash it. Now you're attacking with 2 dragons, and both your dragons get +2/+0, so now you're attacking for 12 out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well.
If you ever have 3 dragons, 21.
Well, it's been a long run on this one. I think we've exhausted our top 9 there, or our bottom 9, I should say.
Yep. Only 2 more cards to talk about, including our mutual hate for this card.
Oh, talk about nightmares. Literally. Ashiok, Nightmare Weaver. Oy. This card...
For 3 mana, like, the control mages just got the jackpot in this card.
Oy. Good thing it was only a Theros card.
Yeah, we didn't have to deal with it for too long, but it had a whole year of taking our Abzan mages, Coursers, and Siege Rhinos, and they get to play them against us, and they didn't even have to have any creatures in their deck to kill you with creatures.
That card was the bane of all Abzan decks.
Yeah, another card to where Seeker of the Wages actually shined, because most people had the Mana Dork in their 2 slot, and Ashiok not going to get attacked by a Mana Dork, or just, have more loyalty on it than you could deal with your Mana Dorks anyway, so you could just +2 and steal all their creatures, and then just play their own great creatures against them.
Every time I went up against Ashiok, I always lost.
Yep, I always spent quite a few attacks, and usually I was using the +2/+2 counters for my Abzan charm to get my creatures big enough to actually kill Ashiok, and then they would just cast another copy and steal all my Coursers and Rhinos, and then kill the creature that was a 5/5, and then...
And every time I tried to use Utter End, they'd always end up with a counterspell.
Yeah.
Blue, what was it, blue,
black, and colorless.
3-mana
walker that just had crap tons of loyalty, so you couldn't really attack it without just gaining your opponent a bunch of life, and then that's all they wanted was to stall the game anyway, and then they start casting your own creatures for basically free, because have to tap any mana when you use the loyalty to cast their creatures, and then they just get to block with those.
Yeah, the Neg X ability was Ashiok's real ultimate power. I mean, the ultimate that Ashiok actually used that never actually worked.
Yeah, her ultimate was -10. You didn't see it too often, but I mean, in control mirrors that were somewhat popular during the Theros times, with both players just playing Ashiok and Sphinx's Revelation out of Ravnica, and all these great blue cards, decent counter spells in that era, dig through time. Just a bunch of really good ways for blue mages to just keep their hands full of counter spells and just take your stuff with Ashiok. And it wasn't very fun for us.
Every time we were using our Abzan deck and we faced Ashiok, we lost.
I didn't lose every time, but I did have to bring in an extra Heater's Downfall out of the sideboard. I have to bring in that second Liliana Vest to empty out their hand. And then I like to bring out a Siege Rhino because it's not the best card versus control, but you still need just its raw power to just get damage in there.
Yeah. But the problem is, with Siege Rhino, you couldn't redirect that damage.
No, you couldn't kill Planeswalkers with it, but you just had to attack.
Well, enough of that nightmare.
Yep.
It's
Pun intended.
It's gone and it's done and past. We don't have to worry about it in standard anymore.
Yeah, probably not going to get a reprint.
And Ashiok's probably never going to be seeing the light of day ever again.
If we ever go back to Theros, there'll probably be another version of Ashiok, but man, that 3-mana version still sees playing Modern, actually, because it's so darn powerful.
All right, moving on.
Number 1, not the best card, but our most favorite cards. In this recent era.
And this card was actually the very first card I ever owned in my entire life. Well, not really first card, but you get the idea.
First Mythic.
Well, not
memorable.
Really. Yeah, it's the first card that I actually touched myself that I actually owned. Sun Titan. Really good 6-drop here. 5/5, I believe it was.
6/6.
Oh, yeah.
6/6 Vigilance. When it comes to play or attacks, you get a 3 or less drop permanent out of your graveyard right into play.
Really good against mill decks that would just mill your stuff.
Yep, worst comes to worst, you can always get a land. Ghost Quarter was really popular with it because you can eventually just destroy all their lands with your lands that you kept getting back every time you attack. If they didn't die from just getting attacked with a giant 6/6.
This one actually came out of the Monsters vs. Heroes dual deck.
Yeah, technically not in the M14 and Ravnica up era, but it was printed right when Theros came out in the dual decks, featuring Polukranos and then Sun Titan.
Yeah.
So it kind of cheated its way in there.
There was always one combo that I was always hoping to get, but I could never get the enchantment for it. Gift of Immortality.
Yeah, a lot of people had a lot of kill during that time, so they could just kill whatever twice, and then that's how you had to get rid of Gift of Immortality.
Luckily, the dual deck came with that, what was it, Miraculous
Recovery or something like that. Revival something. And it had some Reanimator spell in there that was white.
Yeah, it was a 5-drop.
Yep.
Really, plus they also brought it in with a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah.
Making it 7/7.
Since it wasn't big enough.
And it was an instant too that could bring it back.
Yeah, instant speed reanimation spells. You don't see those too
Miraculous
often.
Recovery, that's what it was.
Yeah.
But I tell you that card, he actually faced that in just a little casual deck that I had, and I totally beat him down with it. Yeah, because my deck was nothing but low drop permanents.
Yeah, I think that was actually my casual deck. I was playing Chromanicore, and I just didn't get Chromanicore, and none of my payoff cards. I had a crap ton of mana, just no way to use it, and he just beat me down with a giant
I just could
Sun
never.
Titan.
I could never find a Gift of Immortality. That was the main problem right there.
Yeah, Gift of Immortality wasn't the most powerful card. It was hard to run just more than one of, so.
Yeah, but putting it with the Sun Titan would have been really good. Because the Sun Titan would have been brought back into play.
Yep. And you trigger another thing, and then you get the Immortality back for free, so it's just too much value for your opponent just out of a white card that usually doesn't get a whole lot of card advantage.
Yeah. But you gotta admit, though, that Sun Titan, though, it's a must-have for any white casual deck.
Yeah. Any of the Titans are just great.
Especially that Grave Titan. That thing's nasty.
Yeah, Grave Titan's probably my favorite of those.
Well, now for the final card.
My number one, white card, Angels, everyone's favorite flyers.
Yeah.
Either that or dragons.
I was lucky enough to never come across this thing.
Yeah, this is probably my deck I won Friday Night Magic like 3 months in a row before people just started not showing up or had a different deck or was gunning just for this deck. Archangel Athune. It just so happened that all the good green-white cards just gained life on top of it. So Archangel Athune, every time you gain a life, everybody gets a 1/1 counter. So pretty much this deck was, I played Cursor Crufix on turn 3, get an extra land in there, gain a life, but then on turn 5, play Archangel Athune, do my land drop, I gain a life off the Courser and Archangel Athune, plus whatever I had out at the time, got +1/+1 counters. And then I would cast a spell on top of that, like Scavenging Ooze or Sphinx's Revelation, that great cards that also gain life. So it's just a bunch of ridiculously good cards that had a common theme of gaining life.
I'm just lucky that I never came across it in any of my games.
Yeah, usually I play Archangel Athune on turn 5, and then before I attack, it's probably got at least 2 +1/+1 counters on it. And then it also has lifelink. So when it dealt damage, you just get more +1/+1 counters. And if you ever get multiple coursers out or multiple angels out, like anything you do just puts a ridiculous amount of 1/1s on there, and you just get to attack for huge amounts.
You know,
There's even a Pro Tour matchup. I don't know if it's Pro Tour or like Grand Prix, but anyway, it was between two pros, and this guy had nothing but an Archangel Athune and a Nyx Fleece Ram.
I wouldn't actually know about that because I never actually saw this.
Yeah, but Nyx Fleece Ram was a 0/5 creature that just stood there and gained a life every turn. And then since you gain 1 life every turn, you get a 1/1 counter on all your creatures. And this guy ended up with like a 3/8 ram, and he killed the guy with the ram just off of Archangel Athune. And then you gain 1 life. The angel will die because it's just too powerful. You can't let it live. And then you just killed him with the ram. So it's just pretty funny.
The Ram actually brings up an old combo that I used to run in my old Abzan deck.
Oh yeah.
But
Boy, Abzan goodness.
Yeah, but I think we should better save that for next week, so that way we can tell them all the different better combos that we'd ever had in our games.
And it could be a video for next week.
Yeah, I mean, this one might last a little bit longer because it could be used in modern stuff too.
Yeah, you almost have to talk about the whole deck if you're talking about a combo.
But in this case, we're just gonna say different combos, because some of them are like just 2-card combos that could go in any deck or anything like that.
Yeah.
And
just the start of any deck can have like just 2 really, really high synergy cards, which it was that Nyx Fleece Ram, and the other card wasn't necessarily a combo. It was just super synergistic, and it was pretty funny.
Yeah, turn 3. Almost everyone I've faced, every time I get that on turn 3, they just scoop.
What was the card? It was like Kid Tree Invocation or
yeah,
something
it
like that.
it was a black and green.
Yeah, black green. They put a XX token where X is the highest defense creature or the target creature's defense, and Nyx Fleece Ram was a turn 2 0/5. So turn 3 you could have a 5/5 creature for just 2 mana.
Every time I did that combo, people would scoop.
Yeah, I mean it's a 5/5 on turn 3. You have to point a kill spell at it, or else it's just going to kill you and every planeswalker you try to play.
Yeah, every time I played it against you, you scooped.
Usually I like double blocked it with like a Seeker and a Rhino or something, but
yeah, but then I'd turn around.
I lose a Rhino to a 2 mana card, so it's not the best turnaround.
Yeah, but then again, I would just come right around and use Abzan Charm.
Well, as our top 10 favorites, I try not to talk about Abzan too much, but that was a deck I had many winning streaks with, like 2 years in a row. It was just 2 different versions of it.
And
the first version was a lot of Planeswalker control, and then the second version of it, when Gideon got spoiled, I just swapped out more Planeswalkers for Gideons, and it just became this aggressive, crazy 4-drop. Everything good was 4-drop at the time. So
yeah, and Abzan was where I got my F&M start. Because the first tournament I ever played, I was using that straight up Abzan intro deck.
Yeah, due to Khans of Tarkir having the fetch lands in it, the Siege Rhino was actually like $3 card when it was really the power level of this card should really be on a $10 card. But Kanzatarkir sold so well because of the fetch lands that there were so many rhinos on the market. So
I wanted to put Dramoka the Eternal on here, but she only basically had a flying ability and that one ability where every time a dragon attacks, you get to bolster.
yeah, my list started off with about 14 cards, but then a lot of those were decks that I barely played, so I just kind of cut those and left the 10 cards that I played all the time and just never was sad about casting them.
Oh boy, we've run a little overtime.
Oh well, a lot of good cards to talk about.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, we just couldn't limit it to 1 minute per card.
Yeah, considering we're not talking about the best cards, our favorite cards just tend to have a story attached to them, and
yeah,
that's what the listeners want to hear anyway. I want to hear why these cards are so good and why we like them so much.
Exactly. Hopefully, these will give you ideas for decks in the future. I mean,
yep. A lot of these can be played at casual tables. A lot of these are mythics, but they're not high dollar mythics anymore since they're not standard. So it can make a halfway decent modern deck too if you just want to have a lot of fun at your Friday Night Magic or casual table.
Yeah. I say, tune in next time for whenever we talk about combos that actually are the start of decks. I mean, let's face it, you gotta have the perfect synergy.
Yep, with the new set right around the corner for standard, we might stick to standard combos, high synergy, maybe try to throw some budget combos in there for players who are wanting to jump into standard but don't have, crazy amounts of money to drop on planeswalkers.
I mean, my deck that I'm running right now, that Teamer Factory deck, it's a really cheap deck.
Yeah, minus the Gear Hulks, like the rest of the deck's probably like $40 maybe. It's just filled with like a lot of dollar cards and $2 cards, so pretty cheap for how powerful that thing is.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, even you were scared of it whenever you first went up, play tested against it.
Yeah, my Night Legendary needed a lot more creature kill, but it's a powerful deck.
I'm talking about back whenever we first play tested it back at the old store.
Yeah, I had 6 board wipes in the first deck we play tested in, and if I didn't draw one of them each game, I would have lost no problem. You went infinite like every time on turn 5 or 6.
Maybe we should save that for next week.
Yep.
Or for next time. Well, until next time, everyone, may you draw well.